Hyunwoo walked through the metal corridors of Station Harmony. The walls were cold and gray, but they represented something important. This place was neutral ground. Here humans and aliens could meet without fighting. At least that was the idea. The station floated in space between two worlds. On one side was Earth and the human colonies. On the other side was the Threnki Empire. For 3 years they had been at war. Now they had a ceasefire, but nobody trusted it to last. Hyunwoo worked as a diplomatic liaison officer. His job was to help humans and Threnki talk to each other. It was not easy work. Most of the time, both sides just glared at each other across the meeting rooms. The Threnki were not like humans. They stood 8 feet tall and had 4 arms. Their skin was hard like armor, covered in plates that looked like black metal, but the strangest thing about them was how they glowed. Patterns of light moved across their bodies, changing colors to show how they felt. Red meant anger, blue meant sadness, yellow meant fear. Among all the Threnki on the station, one stood out. Her name was Velnara, and everyone was afraid of her. Even other Threnki moved away when she walked past. Hyunwoo had heard the stories. During the war, Velnara had earned the nickname Red Death. She could fight like 10 warriors. In one famous battle, she held a strategic position alone for 3 days. 50 human Marines tried to take it from her. None of them succeeded. Her lower arms had scars cut into them. These were ritual markings that showed she had killed over 100 enemies. The Threnki called warriors like her death singers. It meant they sang songs of death in battle. When Velnara walked through the station, her body glowed deep red. Her face had sharp features and mandibles like an insect. She moved with the grace of a predator. Every step was silent and controlled. Taemin, Hyunwoo's best friend and the station's security chief, always put his hand on his weapon when she was near. "That thing could kill everyone on this level before we could stop her," he would say. Other humans called her that monster, or the death machine. They spoke in whispers when she was around. Children would hide behind their parents if they saw her coming. But Hyunwoo noticed something different. When Velnara thought no one was watching, her glow changed. The angry red faded to deep blue. Her mandibles would click softly, making a sound like gentle rain. According to his sister Ginny, who studied alien biology, this was how Threnki showed sadness. Ginny worked in the research section of the station. She spent her time learning about different alien species. "The Threnki are more complex than people think," she told Hyunwoo one day. "They have art, music, poetry. Before the war they were actually quite peaceful." "That's hard to believe," Hyunwoo said, thinking of Velnara's reputation. "I've been watching their cultural data," Jinnae continued. "Velnara has been accessing our databases constantly. She's learning human languages, studying our history, reading our literature. She's trying to understand us." This surprised Hyunwoo. Why would a warrior like Velnara care about human culture? So young, the communications officer had noticed it too. "Her data requests are really specific," she said. "She's not looking for military information. She wants to know about our art, our music, our poetry. Yesterday she downloaded the complete works of Shakespeare." Hyunwoo started paying more attention to Velnara. He watched her during the daily meetings between human and Threnki representatives. She never spoke during these sessions. She just stood behind the other Threnki delegates, her forearms crossed, her body glowing its usual red. But sometimes, when a human delegate said something particularly angry or hateful, her glow would shift to blue, just for a moment, then back to red. It was like she was sad about the conflict. Commander Dong-ho, who ran the station, was getting tired of the tensions. "Every day it's something new," he complained. "The humans don't trust the Threnki. The Threnki don't trust the humans, and everyone's afraid of that warrior." The fear was not unreasonable. The Threnki were naturally stronger than humans. Their forearms gave them advantages in combat. Their armored skin could stop most small weapons. And Velnara was elite even among her own people. During mealtimes, the station's cafeteria was divided into 2 sections. Humans sat on one side, Threnki on the other. There was an invisible line down the middle that no one crossed. Velnara always sat alone, even on the Threnki side. She would eat in silence while reading something on a small device. Hyunwoo noticed she was often reading human texts. Sometimes she would make notes in her own language. One day, Hyunwoo was walking past the recreation area when he heard music. It was a human song, something soft and sad. He looked inside and saw Velnara sitting alone, listening to the music through headphones. Her body was glowing a soft purple color. According to Janae's research, purple meant wonder or longing in Threnki body language. It was rare to see. Most Threnki on the station only showed red, blue, or yellow. Velnara's eyes were closed as she listened. Her mandibles clicked softly in rhythm with the music. For a moment, she didn't look like a feared warrior. She looked almost peaceful. Hyunwoo realized something important. Everyone saw Velnara as a monster because of what she had done in the war. But maybe there was more to her than just fighting and killing. He thought about what Jenny had said. Before the war, the Threnki had been peaceful. They had art and music and poetry. The war had changed them, just like it had changed humans. Maybe Velnara was trying to remember who she used to be before she became the Red Death. That night, Hyunwoo couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the warrior sitting alone, listening to human music glowing purple with longing. He thought about how she studied human culture in her spare time. He thought about the sadness in her body language when she thought no one was watching. The next morning, he made a decision. He was going to try talking to her. Taemin thought he was crazy. She could kill you with one hand, he warned. Why would you even want to get near her? Because maybe she's not what everyone thinks she is, Hyunwoo replied. She's a killer, Taemin said firmly. That's all she is. But Hyunwoo wasn't so sure anymore. Yes, Velnara was dangerous. Yes, she had done terrible things in the war. But war made everyone do terrible things. Maybe underneath the warrior, there was still a person who remembered beauty and music and art. He started planning how to approach her. It would have to be somewhere neutral, somewhere she wouldn't feel threatened, and he would have to be very careful. One wrong move could start an incident that would destroy the fragile peace. But something told him it was worth the risk. In a galaxy torn apart by war, maybe understanding could start with just two people talking to each other, even if one of them was the most feared warrior in known space. The opportunity came 3 days later. The station was passing through a solar storm, and the observation deck had the best view. Hyunwoo went there after his shift, hoping to think quietly while watching the light show outside. The deck was empty except for one figure standing by the large windows. Velnara stood with her back to the entrance, all four arms pressed against the reinforced glass. Her body glowed a soft purple, the same color he had seen when she was listening to music. Hyunwoo almost turned around and left. This was probably a bad idea, but something made him stay. Maybe it was the way she stood there, so still and peaceful. She didn't look dangerous right now. She looked lonely. He walked slowly toward the windows, making noise so she would hear him coming. Velnara's head turned slightly, but she didn't move away from the glass. Her glow shifted to yellow for a moment, fear, then back to purple. The lights are beautiful, Hyunwoo said, staying a safe distance away. Velnara was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke, and her voice surprised him. It was deep and musical, but she was speaking Korean. Her pronunciation was careful, like someone who had practiced hard. They remind me of home, she said. Before the wars, we had festivals of light. Now we only know the light of plasma fire. Hyunwoo moved a little closer. Outside, streams of energy danced across the star's surface, painting space in brilliant colors. Your people had festivals? Many festivals, Velnara replied. Her mandibles clicked softly as she spoke. We celebrated the seasons, the growth of plants, the birth of children. There was one called the Song of Growing Things. Young Threnki would compose their first poems during that time. This was nothing like what humans thought about the Threnki. All the war reports described them as a purely military culture, focused only on conquest and battle. Did you write poetry? Hyunwoo asked. Velnara's glow dimmed to deep blue. Once, long ago, but I have forgotten how to sing anything except songs of death. Her sadness was so clear that Hyunwoo felt his heart break a little. Here was one of the most feared beings in the galaxy, and she was mourning the loss of her ability to create beautiful things. What were your poems about? He asked gently. Light, she said, looking out at the solar storm. The way morning light touched the crystal gardens on my world. The way my mother's bioluminescence would pulse when she was happy. Simple things. They stood in comfortable silence for a while watching the storm. Gradually, Velnara's body language relaxed. Her glow shifted from blue to a soft green that Hyunwoo had never seen before. Your people make beautiful music, she said suddenly. I have been listening to your composers. Mozart, Beethoven, Bach. How do humans create such perfect harmony from simple notes? I don't know, Hyunwoo admitted. I think maybe it's because we need beauty to balance out all the ugly things in life. Velnara turned to look at him directly for the first time. Her eyes were large and complex, like black jewels with flecks of silver. Yes, she said. Beauty is balance. I understand this. Is that why you've been studying our culture? Hyunwoo asked. Her mandibles clicked in what might have been embarrassment. You noticed. My sister works in research. She told me about your data requests. I wanted to understand why humans fight so hard to protect things that seem weak, Velnara said. Your art, your music, your poetry. These things do not help in battle, but you value them more than weapons sometimes. Hyunwoo thought about this. Maybe that's what makes them worth protecting. Velnara's glow shifted through several colors. Purple, green, then a warm orange he hadn't seen before. I envy this about your people. Threnki used to create beautiful things too, but the war has made us forget. Now we only remember how to destroy. But you remember. Hyunwoo pointed out. You remember the festivals, the poetry, the crystal gardens? I remember, but I cannot return to them, she said sadly. I am Death Singer now. My hands have killed too many. I cannot wash away what I have become. Maybe you don't need to wash it away, Hyunwoo said. Maybe you just need to add something new to what you are. Velnara stared at him with those complex eyes. Her bioluminescence cycled through colors he had never seen, patterns that seemed to have no name. You are not what I expected, she said finally. What did you expect? Hatred, fear, the same thing I see in every human face when they look at me. Hyunwoo felt a pang of guilt. He had been afraid of her too until very recently. I was afraid, he admitted, but fear makes it hard to see clearly sometimes. And now I see someone who misses writing poetry about light. Velnara's glow shifted to that warm orange again. You speak strangely for a human. You speak strangely for a death singer, Hyunwoo replied. This made her mandibles click in a pattern that sounded almost like laughter. Perhaps we are both strange. They continued talking as the solar storm painted the space around them in brilliant colors. Velnara told him about Threnki meditation practices, about how her people used to commune with the living crystals on their homeworld. She explained that Threnki philosophy was based on the idea that all life was connected through invisible threads of energy. Hyunwoo shared his own struggles, the weight of being a bridge between species, the loneliness of always being the mediator, never quite belonging fully to either side. He told her about his childhood, about the books that had shaped his thinking, about his dreams of a galaxy where different species could live together peacefully. Your people call me Death Singer, Velnara said as the solar storm began to fade, but I have forgotten how to sing anything but dirges for the fallen. Then maybe it's time to learn new songs, Hyunwoo said. Velnara turned to face him fully. Her forearms moved in a gesture that seemed almost like a bow. Would you teach me? The question hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Hyunwoo knew that agreeing would change everything. Fraternizing with enemy aliens was technically against regulations. Getting close to the most feared Threnki warrior was definitely dangerous, but looking at her now, seeing the hope in her alien features and the soft green glow of her skin, he couldn't bring himself to say no. I'll teach you, he said, but we'll have to be careful. A lot of people wouldn't understand. Careful is something I know how to be, Velnara said. As they walked back through the station together, Hyunwoo noticed that other humans stared at them with shock and fear. Velnara's presence beside him felt strange but not threatening. Her bioluminescence had settled into a steady purple-green pattern that seemed peaceful. Same time tomorrow, he asked when they reached the junction where their paths would separate. Yes, she said. And thank you. For what? For seeing me instead of just my reputation. As Hyunwoo watched her walk away, he realized that this was just the beginning. He had agreed to teach an alien warrior about human culture and art. But maybe in the process, she would teach him something too. Maybe they would both learn that understanding was possible, even between the most unlikely people. 3 months passed like a secret dream. Every evening, Hyunwoo and Velnara met in hidden corners of the station. Sometimes it was the observation deck during quiet hours. Other times it was empty conference rooms or maintenance corridors where no one would think to look. Hyunwoo brought her human poetry books. He read her verses by ancient masters and modern writers. Velnara would listen with her eyes closed, her bioluminescence shifting through colors as she felt the rhythm and emotion of the words. "This one," she said one evening, touching a page about spring rain. "This speaks to something deep inside me. How do human words create pictures in the mind?" "It's called metaphor," Hyunwoo explained. "We compare one thing to another to help people feel what we're trying to say." Velnara practiced writing her own poems in Korean. Her handwriting was careful and precise. She wrote about memories of her homeworld, about the way crystal formations sang in the wind, about the loneliness of being feared by everyone around her. In return, she taught Hyunwoo about Threnki meditation. She showed him how to feel the energy connections between all living things. It was different from human meditation, more active, more aware of the world around them. "Your people focus inward to find peace," she explained. "My people focus outward, connecting with the life force of everything around us. Both paths lead to understanding." She also shared Threnki philosophical concepts that challenged everything Hyunwoo thought he knew about their species. The idea that strength came not from conquering others, but from protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The belief that true warriors fought only when there was no other choice. "The war changed us," Velnara said sadly. "We forgot our own teachings and became what our enemies expected us to be." Their friendship deepened into something neither of them had expected. Hyunwoo found himself looking forward to their meetings more than anything else in his day. Velnara's alien features had become familiar and dear to him. The way her mandibles clicked when she was thinking. The gentle patterns her bioluminescence made when she was happy. But they both knew how impossible their situation was. Humans and Threnki were barely at peace. The idea of actual friendship between species was radical enough. Anything deeper would be unthinkable. Then came the day of the cultural exchange ceremony. It marked 1 full year since the ceasefire began. Diplomats from both worlds had come to Station Harmony to celebrate this fragile peace. The main hall was decorated with symbols from both cultures. Human flags hung next to Threnki ceremonial banners. The air hummed with nervous energy as representatives from both species tried to be polite to each other. Commander Dong Ho gave a speech about cooperation and mutual understanding. The Threnki elder Kethmore spoke about the value of peace. News feeds from both worlds were broadcasting the event live. Velnara stood with the other Threnki delegates, her body glowing the neutral yellow that meant she was keeping her emotions under control. But Hyunwoo could see the subtle blue undertones that meant she was sad about something. During the ceremony, a group of human extremists suddenly appeared. 6 men in civilian clothes, but Hyunwoo could tell they were military from the way they moved. They had weapons, illegal energy pistols that could kill a Threnki even through their armored skin. "Die, alien scum," one of them shouted, raising his weapon toward Velnara. What happened next took only seconds, but Hyunwoo saw it in slow motion. Velnara could have killed all 6 attackers easily. She was faster and stronger than any human. Her training had taught her dozens of ways to end a fight quickly. Instead, she moved to disarm them without permanent harm. Her 4 arms worked in perfect coordination, striking weapons from hands, applying pressure to nerve points that would cause temporary paralysis, using just enough force to stop the threat. In 10 seconds, all 6 attackers were on the ground, alive but unable to move. Velnara stood over them, her bioluminescence bright red from the adrenaline, but her voice was controlled. "I could have killed you," she told them quietly. "But killing serves no purpose except to create more enemies." The hall erupted in shocked murmurs. Humans stared in amazement. Threnki delegates clicked their mandibles in what Hyunwoo now knew was approval. Even the extremists looked confused. They had expected to die. This was the moment Hyunwoo had been waiting for without knowing it. Here was proof that Velnara was not the monster everyone thought she was. Here was a chance to show both species that understanding was possible. He stepped forward into the center of the hall. Every eye turned to him. The news cameras focused on his face. He could feel the weight of 2 worlds watching. "Velnara of the Threnki," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the sudden silence. "I ask you to be my bride, to stand with me as we build a bridge between our peoples. Not as warrior to warrior, but as heart to heart." The silence that followed was deafening. Then chaos erupted. Human delegates shouted in outrage. Threnki delegates hissed in what sounded like anger. Taemin pushed through the crowd, reaching for Hyunwoo as if to physically drag him away from the disaster he had just created. "Are you insane?" Taemin yelled. Do you know what you've just done? Commander Dong-ho was speaking rapidly into his communicator, probably calling for security backup. The news reporters were in a frenzy, broadcasting the scandal live to both worlds. But Hyun-woo only had eyes for Velnara. Her bioluminescence was cycling through colors he had never seen before. Rapid flashes of purple, green, orange, and something that looked almost white. Her forearms were trembling. Then something happened that shocked everyone into silence again. Liquid began streaming down Velnara's face. Drenki didn't typically produce tears, but extreme emotion could trigger a similar response. She was crying. You would choose me, she whispered, her voice breaking from its usual musical harmony into something raw and vulnerable. Even knowing what I am? Even knowing what I have done? The hall fell completely silent. Two species, sworn enemies for years, held their breath waiting for an answer to a question that could change everything. Hyun-woo walked closer to her. Ignoring the weapons that several security officers had drawn, he looked up into her alien features, seeing past the mandibles and the armored skin to the person he had come to love. I know exactly who you are, he said softly, but loud enough for the microphones to pick up. You're someone who writes poetry about light. Someone who listens to human music and cries when it's beautiful. Someone who could have killed 6 attackers but chose mercy instead. He took another step closer. You're not the Red Death anymore, Velnara. You're someone who remembers how to sing songs about growing things. And yes, I choose you. The tears fell faster from her complex eyes. Her bioluminescence settled into a warm, steady glow that Hyun-woo had never seen before. Something that looked like pure joy mixed with disbelief. Yes, she said, her voice barely audible. Yes, I will stand with you. I will learn to sing new songs. As news of the proposal spread across the galaxy, both worlds exploded into debate. Some called it treason, others called it the beginning of a new era. But in that moment, standing in the center of the chaos they had created, Hyun-woo and Velnara only saw each other. They had crossed a line that no one thought could be crossed, and somehow, against all odds, they had found love on the other side. The galaxy exploded into chaos within hours of the proposal. News feeds on every human world showed the same images over and over. Hyun-woo kneeling before an alien warrior. Velnara crying tears that her species wasn't supposed to be able to shed. Two beings from enemy civilizations declaring love in front of the entire galaxy. Human supremacist groups called for Hyun-woo's immediate arrest. Traitor to his own species, they screamed on every channel, contaminated by alien influence. Protesters gathered outside government buildings on Earth, holding signs that called for his execution. The Threnki response was just as harsh. Their military commanders demanded that Velnara be returned home immediately for cleansing. Traditional Threnki believed that close contact with aliens corrupted their spiritual purity. Some called for her death as an example to others, but something unexpected began to happen in the communication networks. So Young noticed it first. Message traffic between human and Threnki systems is up 300%, she reported to Commander Dong-ho. But it's not military communications. It's personal messages. She pulled up her data screens showing streams of text flowing between the two civilizations. Young humans are reaching out to young Threnki. They're asking questions about culture, about art, about philosophy, and the Threnki are answering. Jin'e discovered something even more surprising in her research databases. There are others, she told her brother quietly. Mixed couples who have been hiding for months, maybe years. Your proposal gave them permission to come forward. The evidence was scattered but clear. A human engineer on a mining station had been secretly meeting with a Threnki geologist. A human teacher had been learning Threnki poetry from one of their scholars. A Threnki artist had been collaborating with human musicians on experimental compositions. They were afraid to reveal themselves before, Jin'e explained. But now they're sending me messages asking for advice, sharing their stories. You opened a door that was already there. People just needed someone to walk through it first. Meanwhile, both governments were in crisis mode. The human president called emergency. Meetings to discuss the alien contamination incident. The Threnki Council of Elders debated whether to end the ceasefire entirely, but the public response was more complicated than either government expected. Yes, there were protests and angry demonstrations, but there were also counter-protests. Humans who supported interspecies cooperation, Threnki, who remembered the old festivals and wanted to return to peaceful ways. On Station Harmony, Hyunwoo and Velnara found themselves at the center of a storm they had created but couldn't control. Security had tripled around them. Both were technically under house arrest while their governments decided what to do. "I'm sorry," Hyunwoo said as they sat together in a secured conference room. "I didn't think about what this would do to you, to your people." Velnara's bioluminescence pulsed a steady green. "Do not apologize for speaking truth," she said. "The consequences were always going to come eventually. Better to face them together than to hide forever." The real test came when Elder Kethmore arrived on the station with a full military escort. He was an ancient Threnki, his armored skin scarred from decades of battle, his bioluminescence dim with age but still commanding respect. "You will return with me," he told Velnara in their formal meeting. "The council has decided. You will undergo purification rituals to cleanse yourself of alien influence. Then you will resume your duties as a proper warrior." Velnara stood tall, all four arms crossed in a gesture of defiance. "I refuse." The statement shocked everyone in the room. Threnki warriors didn't refuse orders from elders. It went against everything their culture taught about duty and obedience. "You forget your place," Kethmore said, his own bioluminescence flashing angry red. "You are Deathsinger. You belong to the Empire." "I am Velnara," she replied calmly. "I belong to myself." Ziltha, her former squad leader, stepped forward. She had been Velnara's mentor during the war, the one who taught her how to be an efficient killer. Now she looked at her former student with disappointment. "You bring shame to all who trained you," Ziltha said. "Denounce this human madness and come home. You can still reclaim your honor." Velnara's response surprised everyone, including Hyunwoo. "Honor without love is just decorated emptiness. I choose the path that lets me sing new songs." The confrontation escalated when extremists from both sides decided to take matters into their own hands. A human militant group tried to storm the station to rescue Hyunwoo from alien influence. A Threnki strike force arrived to take Velnara by force. Battle seemed inevitable until something remarkable happened. Moderate voices from both species began arriving at the station. Human ships and Threnki vessels working together for the first time since the ceasefire began. Captain Lee from the human cruiser Harmony's Dawn contacted the station. "We're here to protect the peace," she announced. "Anyone who tries to start a fight will answer to all of us." Commander Velketh from the Threnki ship Song of Growing Light sent a similar message. "Let those who choose love be free to choose. We will not allow violence to destroy what they have built." The mixed fleet surrounded Station Harmony, humans and Threnki working side by side to protect two people who dared to love across the species divide. Ginny gathered data on everything that was happening. "Public opinion is shifting," she reported. "The extremists are loud, but they're not the majority. Most people on both sides are curious, not angry. They want to see what happens next." Young Threnki were sharing recordings of their ancient festivals online, showing humans what their culture had been like before the war. Human artists were creating works inspired by Threnki philosophy. Scientists from both species were proposing joint research projects. "It's like you gave the galaxy permission to be curious instead of afraid," So Young observed. But the real breakthrough came when Velnara made a public statement. She stood before the news cameras, her bioluminescence steady and calm, speaking in clear Korean that she had practiced for hours. "I was taught that strength meant destroying your enemies," she said. "But I have learned from humans that true strength means protecting what you love. I choose to protect the possibility of peace between our peoples." She paused, her mandibles clicking softly as she chose her words carefully. "I am not abandoning my heritage. I am expanding it. The warrior's path and the lover's path are not opposites. They are both ways of protecting what matters most." The statement went viral across both civilizations. Young Threnki began adopting her philosophy, talking about expanded heritage and new warrior paths. Human youth started learning Threnki meditation techniques and philosophical concepts. Elder Kethmore, watching the cultural exchange happening around him, finally approached Velnara privately. "You have created something I did not expect," he admitted. Perhaps there is wisdom in your choice." "The wisdom was always there," Velnara replied respectfully. "I just needed someone to help me remember it." As protesters and counter-protesters faced off in the space around Station Harmony, as governments debated and extremists raged, two hearts that had found each other across impossible odds prepared for whatever came next. They had already won the most important victory. They had shown the galaxy that love was stronger than fear, that understanding was possible even between the most unlikely souls. Whatever happened now, that truth would spread like ripples across the stars. 1 year later, Station Harmony had become something no one could have imagined. What started as a neutral meeting place between two enemies had transformed into the first truly integrated community in the galaxy. The wedding ceremony itself became a celebration that bridged two worlds. Velnara wore traditional Threnki ceremonial plates, intricate armor pieces that had been in her family for generations. But she also wore silk from Earth, a flowing cape that moved like water around her forearms. Hyunwoo incorporated Threnki vows into the human ceremony. "I promise to share strength in the face of darkness," he said, speaking the ancient words in perfect Threnki. "I promise to sing songs of growing things with you, today and always." The ceremony was officiated by both Reverend Park, a human minister, and songkeeper Morthi, a Threnki spiritual leader. Two traditions that had never mixed before blended into something beautiful and new, but the real victory wasn't the wedding. It was everything that came after. Families began arriving from both worlds. Human children played with young Threnki in the station's parks, learning each other's games and languages. The differences that had once seemed impossible to overcome became sources of wonder and fun. Artists from both species started collaborating. Human painters worked with Threnki, who could create living light patterns with their bioluminescence. Musicians learned to compose for both human instruments and the harmonic voices of the Threnki. Dr. Sarah Kim, a human doctor, worked alongside healer Veltan to create new medical techniques that combined human technology with Threnki energy healing. Their joint research was already saving lives on both worlds. Scientists discovered that combining human innovation with Threnki, philosophical approaches led to breakthroughs neither species could achieve alone. A new type of faster-than-light communication system, agricultural techniques that could make desert worlds bloom, art forms that spoke to the soul in ways neither culture had imagined. Velnara established a martial arts academy that taught both human and Threnki combat forms. But her focus was different from traditional warrior training. She emphasized protection over destruction, defense over attack. True strength, she told her mixed classes of human and Threnki students, is knowing when not to fight. Her reputation as the Red Death had evolved into something new. She was still respected as a formidable warrior, but now she was known as the bridge builder, the one who chose love over war. Commander Dong Ho watched the daily life of the station from his office window. Where once there had been suspicious segregation, now he saw integration everywhere. A human grandmother teaching Threnki children how to bake cookies. A group of mixed teenagers working together on an art project. Elderly humans learning Threnki meditation alongside ancient warriors learning human music. "It's not perfect," he told Jin-A during one of their weekly reports. "We still have incidents, cultural misunderstandings, people who can't let go of old prejudices. But it's working." Jin-A nodded, looking at her data screens. "Interspecies cooperation has increased by 800% since the wedding. More importantly, violent incidents between humans and Threnki are down 90% across all sectors." The change wasn't limited to Station Harmony. Both Earth and the Threnki homeworld had begun cultural exchange programs. Young people from both species were studying abroad, learning about each other's histories and philosophies. Universities on both worlds offered courses in interspecies communication. The most popular classes were taught by couples like Hyunwoo and Velnara, pairs who had found love across the species divide and could teach others how to build bridges. But the most remarkable change was in the children. Human and Threnki youngsters who grew up together on the station didn't see each other as aliens. They saw friends, playmates, family members. To them, the differences between species were just interesting variations like having different colored hair or eyes. Hyunwoo often found himself watching these children and feeling hopeful about the future. They were growing up in a galaxy where peace wasn't just the absence of war, it was the presence of genuine understanding and love. The evening of their first anniversary, Hyunwoo and Velnara walked through the corridors of Station Harmony together. It was a route they had taken many times, but tonight it felt special. They passed the observation deck where they had first talked about poetry and light. They walked by the martial arts academy where Threnki warriors were learning human meditation techniques. They stopped at the nursery where the newest residents of the station were sleeping peacefully. In Velnara's forearms she carried their daughter, the first human Threnki hybrid born in the galaxy. Little Nayung had her father's eyes but her mother's complex facial structure. Her skin bore faint bioluminescent traces that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "She's beautiful," Hyunwoo said, not for the first time. "What song should we teach her first?" Velnara's bioluminescence cycled through gentle colors as she considered the question. Her patterns now included shades that had never been recorded in Threnki before. Colors that seemed to represent new emotions, new possibilities. "How about a lullaby about building bridges between the stars?" she suggested. As they walked, they passed other mixed couples. A human engineer holding hands with a Threnki architect. A human teacher sharing a joke with a Threnki poet. Love had become more common, but it was still special every time. They stopped at a new memorial that had been installed in the main corridor. It honored those who died in the war on both sides, but its message was about the future rather than the past. They fought so that we might learn to love. "Do you ever regret it?" Hyunwoo asked, looking at the memorial. "Giving up your old life, facing all the hatred and fear?" Velnara shifted their daughter to one arm so she could touch Hyunwoo's face with her hand. Her bioluminescence pulsed with that warm color that meant deep contentment. "How can I regret becoming who I was always meant to be?" she said. "I spent so many years forgetting how to sing songs of life. Now I remember every day." They continued their walk, past the shops where human and Threnki merchants worked side by side, past the schools where children learned both histories and dreamed of futures their parents couldn't have imagined. At the end of their route, they reached the new concert hall. Tonight, the station's first mixed choir was performing, human voices blending with Threnki harmonics to create music that neither species could make alone. As they listened to the beautiful, impossible songs drifting through the corridors, Velnara began to glow in patterns that matched the rhythm. Nayung gurgled happily, her own faint patterns flickering in response to her mother's light. "What do you think she'll become?" Hyunwoo asked, watching their daughter's tiny hands reaching toward the music. "Whatever she chooses," Velnara said. "Human Threnki, both neither, it won't matter. She'll grow up knowing that love is stronger than fear. That understanding is possible between any two hearts willing to try." From their position near the concert hall, they could see out the large windows to the space around the station. Ships from both civilizations moved in peaceful patterns, working together on projects that benefited everyone. In the distance, the lights of new stations glowed against the stars. Station harmony had been so successful that both governments were building more integrated communities. The bridge between worlds was becoming a highway. "We did something impossible," Hyunwoo said wonderingly. "No," Velnara corrected, her mandibles clicking in the pattern he now knew meant gentle disagreement. "We did something inevitable. Love always finds a way, even across the greatest distances." As the music swelled around them and their daughter slept peacefully in her mother's arms, Hyunwoo realized that this was just the beginning. They had proven that peace was possible. They had shown the galaxy that difference could be a source of strength rather than division. Now their daughter and children like her would grow up to build even greater bridges, to reach even further across the vast spaces between worlds and species and hearts. The Red Death had learned to sing new songs, and the galaxy would never be the same.